this morning and having some fun here midweek on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Always having a great time with you where sports meets that thing called life. So my best to each and every single one of you out there as we get set to celebrate another edition of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And yes, I said celebrate because I love what I do and I do what I love. And so you should wake up every single day and you should celebrate your life. If you're not celebrating your life, what are you doing? Right? You know, you shouldn't be eulogizing your life, right? You should be celebrating your life. So if you're not doing what you love or you're not doing it with the people that you love, make sure that you make that change today because life is too short to half do it. So make sure you're out there actually going after the things that you want in your life because life is precious. So with that being said, welcome here inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Always happy to be here with you inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Of course, you can fill your cup up right today and keep it local by heading off to Cafe Kubal on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street. Each of those locations in Syracuse, New York. You can also go to 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, and you can enjoy them in their giant behemoth of a brown straight building. I call it the Manlius Welcome Center. It's where all the roads converge into Manlius, so you can enjoy them there. And, of course, you can go see them at their drive-through location on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse. So make sure you head out there today. Let them know that Wake Up Call sent you, and definitely fill your cup up right with some of their chai. Love their chai. Their seasonal flavor is lavender, which is fantastic. I've had lavender, I've had honey, I've had brown sugar, I think I've had the French toast. I've, of course, had pumpkin, which is my favorite there. And everything is made in-house, so make sure you get off to Cafe Kubal today and enjoy some of that good drinking and good eating as well with their fantastic chocolate chip cookies, their chocolate chip banana bread, and all the great stuff they have to offer. So we'll definitely look forward to seeing you out there. And much appreciation, as always, to Cafe Kubal for all that they do to keep it local and be here in our community, always doing right by us. So a big shout out to Cafe Kubal for all the love that they give to us and for building up our community from the inside. So with that being said, we have an awesome show here for you this morning. Of course, it is Wednesday, which means it's Dolphin time. Every Wednesday we have the Dolphin Time Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Every first and third Wednesday is AD&DT like today, and it's actually the 1st of June. So I hope you had a fantastic May. I hope your June is better. If you had a tough May, I hope your June is better. So here's to new beginnings, fresh starts, and great times. We will have our Dolphin time here in AD&DT with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora, a.k.a. DT. And we will be speaking on the successes of spring sports. Multiple sports had tremendous success. Men's golf, men's and women's tennis, as well as women's lacrosse, men's lacrosse, and baseball, all having great success here in the spring. We'll talk about that, and we'll get an exclusive update from LeMoyne. You know that Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora broke the story on LeMoyne potentially looking at transitioning from D2 to D1 in NCAA sports, so and as an institution as a whole. So we got to break the story on reclassification and realignment. We gave you the exclusive update on that, and now we have a further update on reclassification and realignment. So very excited to talk with you about that, as well as name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal, all that coming up here in our conversation with Bob Beretta, the athletics director of LeMoyne College. So that's coming up in just a couple minutes. And then in the second half of hour one, we'll have Dave Pasiak, our resident basketball coach, analyst, and overall fan, who will be joining us, as he always does, throughout the NBA playoffs to speak with us on the upcoming NBA Finals, on the eve of the finals, as we talk about the Boston Celtics of the East and the Golden State Warriors of the West. And, of course, we'll start a new video, as we always do, for the Fantasy Football Power Hour, not but the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub. And that will be featuring the running backs of the NFL NFC edition. So, last week we gave you fantasy football advice on every quarterback situation on all 32 teams. We're going to split up the running backs because the backfield has multiple players here. So we're going to split up the backfields. We're going to do the NFC this week, the AFC next week. And so we have 16 teams on the docket. And Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com, as well as our joint venture of Winning Fantasy Football, the group that you can join here on Facebook for free. All you have to do on Facebook is type Winning Fantasy Football and click join. and you can join us here. So we're very excited about doing that. We'll be bringing you our Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub in hour number 2, running backs of the NFL NFC edition, right after this fast break, or pardon me, in hour number 2, I should say. So video number 1 of the day will be featuring AD and DT and Dave Pasiak, and then our second video of the morning, will have the Fantasy Football Power Hour. On Wednesdays, we split up the videos into hour 1 and hour 2, so that your fantasy football lovers from around the world will be able to grab all this fantasy football content from our YouTube channel by subscribing, youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, or clicking on our fantasy football tab to get you ready for the season. So we do fantasy football all year round because we understand it's a year-round sport, and we'll get you ready for that in hour 2. And coming up after this, we have the exclusive update on reclassification for LeMoyne, as well as the success of their spring sports, and Bob Beretta's thoughts on name, image, and likeness, as well as the transfer portal, right here inside of the Cafe Kubal studios.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Here to a new edition of Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, and every second and fourth Wednesday, the Dolphin Dive, where we dive into the stories of student athletes, coaches, administration, as well as future Dolphins and alumni. With that being said, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Dan.
Absolutely. Happy to be here with you, and we have a lot to be proud of, a lot to discuss as the year wraps up and students and student athletes head home and get some time with their family and their friends. We can reflect on the fact that this past spring season has been very, very successful, and there's a lot to build upon.
Yeah, it was a very successful season for us, Dan, both in the classroom and on our playing fields. As you know, we had 6 athletic teams qualify for the NCAAs this spring. Exceedingly proud of our student athletes. It's the second highest total that we've ever achieved here at LeMoyne in one season. So really proud of that group, and our lacrosse teams achieved at eye level. Our men fell just shy of qualifying for the national final game, the championship game once again, to defend their national championship. But they really performed well in the semifinal game down against Mercy 10 days ago. Great matchup. Our women's lacrosse team fought through tremendous adversity, injuries, and made it into the NCAAs and really fell a goal shy of winning the conference championship. And you might be able to dispute that because it was a disputed game-winning goal with 10 seconds left. We have forgotten about that, moved on from it, but really proud of that team. Our baseball team earned a berth into the NCAAs for the first time since 2018, reached the regional semifinal. Tremendous job by Scott Cassidy and his group.
Yeah.
Our men's golf team was the number 2 seed. We hosted the East Regional up in Rochester. And of course, our women's and men's tennis teams. So proud of what Jeff Lonzak and that group accomplished this spring. Our women made their first ever trip to the NCAAs, got a win in their first ever match in the NCAAs. And then our men won that East Regional pod here that we hosted at Syracuse. And then we went down to the Nationals for the first time ever, and just an extremely exciting opportunity for our men to go compete against the best. They fell short in that matchup, much more competitive than the final score, and finished the season ranked 25th nationally, the highest ever by a tennis team here at LeMoyne. So it was a very accomplished spring, and I'm so proud of our student athletes.
Yeah, great to see all of these amazing moments in the spring season and really overall, and to see how incredibly well put together these teams have been, navigating through the pandemic, navigating through rules changing back and forth, and masks and no masks, and what can you do, and travel and whatnot. On top of all of that, being a student, being an athlete, and then dealing with adversity of injury and whatnot, and starts and stops because maybe a team that was supposed to come in, they come down with a pandemic, so then you have to change your schedule. There's a lot of things that these student athletes, coaches, and overall everyone connected to the teams have had to deal with. So to have successful seasons amidst the normal run of play and add into that everything else that we've been dealing with the last couple of years says a lot about LeMoyne. And as you always say, that dolphins never swim alone.
No, they don't swim alone. They swim well in the classroom as well. We didn't touch on that, Dan, but we honored 106 student athletes at our Scholar Athlete Breakfast. That's the highest number ever here at LeMoyne. And with the Scholar Athlete Breakfast, it recognizes student athletes that have at least 3 semesters under their belts and have a GPA of 3.5 or better. So 106 of our roughly 360 student athletes holding a CUME of 3.5 or better. That's impressive. And then you look at this semester alone, we achieved at a 3.3 plus rate, again, the 38th consecutive semester that the entire athletic department has accomplished a GPA over 3.0. 77% of our student athletes sported a GPA of at least 3.0, which is amazing. And then to make it even more extraordinary, 74% of our student athletes have CUMEs of 3.5 or better. So, yeah, I'm so proud. I'm fortunate to have an opportunity to help lead this organization with such phenomenal individuals that achieve at very high levels, both in the classroom and on the athletic fields.
Yeah, you bring that up, and it's very important to me. It's been a topic of discussion for 18 plus years as a broadcaster on my side, and a topic of discussion now with everything going on in today's world. The importance of remembering the student and student athlete and what that means, and how you can't be competing on the field in the court of life if you're not taking care of the classroom. So as an athletic director, for you, how vital and how important is it to remember the student side? Because in today's America, I feel like all we talk about is NIL, transfer portal, money going here, money going there, who's moving, shifting, doing this. I almost never hear anybody say, hey, in the classroom, like you said, 3.5 or better, at least a 3.0, almost 80% of them, 106 scholar athletes, most ever. We don't hear that enough. And even when we do hear it, it's a quick email and it's gone.
Yeah.
So I would love to play more into the reality that being a student athlete and which one comes first in that hyphenation really should be a point of focus. It's been a point of focus on my show, and I would love someone who's been so many years into making sure that education is paramount for you to speak on it a little bit.
Well, I'm happy to, Dan, and thanks for asking that question. You know, we're educators first. Make no mistake about that. That's our mission here at LeMoyne College. We are completely aligned with the educational institutional mission of the college, and that is academics first. And that'll always be the highest priority. We will always be completely aligned with the leadership and the mission of the college, and that's always going to be education first. So we place a premium on performance in the classroom. And I'm so proud of our staff and what we've been able to accomplish this year in terms of trying to build even a stronger wall around our student athletes in terms of their academic support. As I mentioned earlier, LeMoyne is a long stretch, right, 18, 19 years now of student athletes where our cumulative GPA is 3.0 or better in a semester. That's unheard of. So this is long before I arrived on campus. But I think we've done some things this past year to help try and reinforce that message and try and help reinforce the support that our student athletes receive. We shifted one of our assistant athletic directors to a student athlete success role, and Eliza Hilligus, and she also is a member of our EASE committee on campus, and that committee really helps identify students that might be struggling, not just academically, but in their personal lives. So I'm really happy with that support place. I think Liza probably worked with over 40 to 50 athletes this year that came to talk to her about some issues that they were having personally, at home, here at school, academically. And then we established our faculty athletic affiliates program, which I'm so proud of. We had great buy-in from our faculty, from Dr. Sean Ward, our faculty athletics rep, Travis Newton, who was the faculty senate chair. Of course, our provost, Jim Hannon, was very supportive of this initiative. And we placed a faculty member with each one of our athletic teams to help build that bridge and strengthen that bond. So that representative could go to practice, could go to games, they could sit on the benches. We really let them kind of mold that relationship as deeply as they want to, but they know that our student athletes have a member of the faculty they can go to directly, and if it's for maybe additional tutoring or it's some additional help, or at least to have a friendly voice on the faculty side that can help steer them in the right direction if they have a specific need from a class standpoint. So I'm thrilled with these initiatives. We'll look to continue to only strengthen our plans and processes and how we can take care of our student athletes, but it's always going to be academics first.
Yeah, and I think that is, because it is first, we see what's been asked of the student athletes and they've responded in a tremendous way, and you have to make that a paramount piece. To me, it's a no-brainer to do something like that. To touch on it a little bit, since it's been such a topic of discussion, and I have done a lot with the leadership around the country to get everyone's thoughts from all over when it comes to NIL and the transfer portal. NIL is a question that comes up when your coaches are out recruiting. People may ask, hey, what's the NIL look like in Central New York? And at the same time, I've talked to your coaches and they deal with the transfer portal either by bringing players in, student athletes in, or having them leave. So we know that LeMoyne, as well as many institutions all over the country, have been touched by NIL and the transfer portal. How do you view it as we are now, a calendar year into what I will respectfully call a massive tornado that was treated like it was a small rainstorm?
I agree with both, actually, and I do believe that any measure to enhance the student athlete experience is positive, but I feel like there need to be some guardrails in place, and right now there really isn't. There really isn't in the NIL world, and the transfer portal. It's too open right now. Everything is just kind of like an open range. So I am always an advocate for our student athletes and their experience and their freedoms and their opportunities. If it means that they can maybe make some money that they can help them get through their college experience, maybe help their families, utilize their own personal brand through NIL, name, image, likeness. Very supportive of that. I just don't feel like there are enough guardrails and checks and balances in place right now. And I think right now we're in a place where it's truly pay for play. I'm happy to say we're not dealing with a lot of that here at LeMoyne. There are opportunities, we work on those on a case by case. I think we're doing the right way. Athletic departments are not supposed to be advisors, or at least not in a way to arrange these deals, but at least we are able to advise our student athletes from a compliance standpoint, what they can and can't do. And I think we're doing it the right way here at LeMoyne. There are opportunities, but make no mistake about it, the opportunities at LeMoyne don't equal the opportunities that are out there for student athletes at the Economy 5 conferences. In terms of the transfer portal, again, I'm wholly supportive of that. I think it's a huge benefit for a student athlete to be able to transfer one time during their career, not sit out a year if it's a 4-year institution to another 4-year institution. But what we're saying is there's absolutely no boundaries to that either. And we're starting to hear discussion of maybe there'll be windows where the transfer, based on your season, when athletes can transfer within those windows. And I think that'll help roster construction, because right now it's very difficult. A coach shows up any day, his roster could look different if he or she comes to practice one day and finds out 3 student athletes entered the transfer portal. There should be some time, you would think, that's going to be blocked off where it's sacred and you have your team, and your team, at least at that moment in time, is your team. So I'm a huge advocate of student athlete rights. I just feel like right now there needs to be a bit more structure in both of those areas.
And when I say tornado that was treated like a small rainstorm, I also am a proponent of getting something to the student athletes as far as their opportunity for name, image, and likeness, because the majority of student athletes will not play professionally. So the only time for them to make money on their name, image, and likeness in connection to their sport is within their time in college. And I know that the NCAA is going to capitalize off of that student athlete. So I think the student athlete should be able to capitalize off themselves. I never force somebody making money off of your name that you can't make yourself. So that's my feeling on it, but there needs to be parameters, and you shouldn't be able to call a school and the school say, hey, if you come here, we'll get you X amount of dollars. That's an issue. The part of the transfer portal, coaches used to be able to, if a player said, I want it, because you used to have to tell your coach, now you don't have to. Now you can just tell your compliance person, and the coach doesn't know. And the coach can't see their own team in the transfer portal. So the coach could have 6 players in the transfer portal, not even know, if there's no personal responsibility from that student athlete to go to the coach and say, hey, just so you know, I may leave, I may not, but I'm in the transfer portal.
Right.
That secrecy is something I struggle with if I was a coach. And at the same time, I think the other part of it too is the fact that, like you said, with the windows and whatnot, coaches could do whatever they wanted. Coaches used to be able to come to you and say, hey, Bob, if you told me you wanted to transfer, I could say, okay, you can't go to anybody in our conference, and you can't go to anybody on our schedule.
Right.
Well, what if of those 30 some odd teams I give you, 5 of them are the only schools recruiting you?
Right.
And I've talked to student athletes that I've gotten to know and become friends with. I've spoken with them who told me flat out, Dan, I tried to transfer from the school I was at, and the head coach gave me a list of teams, and whether or not it makes sense to me, of all those teams, 2 or 3 of them that he had on that list were the only schools recruiting me. So I either had to stay in a situation I didn't want to be in, or I had to find another school, but where I actually wanted to go, I couldn't play. And that to me was hard for me to take. So I do like that those parameters are gone. What I don't like about the transfer portal is the fact that because there are not the windows, and I brought that up on my show too, it's not, I can't take credit that it was my idea because it wasn't, but the window rule of you know what you're going to have. Because if you're a college football coach, you, on average, are going out in a recruiting class in 20 to 25 players, right? 22 maybe you're bringing in. So let's say I'm bringing in 19 guys, 22 guys, whatever that may be. Well, if I have 20 in the transfer portal, now I have 42 scholarships I have to fill. If I have 42 scholarships to fill, think about that. That's 11 away from being an entire NFL roster. So to me, I know schools that have gone through the 30 to 40 scholarships this year that they had to fill, when in actuality it should have been 19 or 20, maybe 22. So, you know, I think that it's good that the student athletes have more say in their future, but there has to be a check, a balance, a guardrail, because as someone so well put it, and it's something that we've talked about a lot, and he just said it on the show recently, Mike Oresco, the commissioner of the American Athletic Conference, he said you could call it the Wild Wild West, but the Wild Wild West had more rules.
That's true.
So it's a great thing for student athletes to have both of these things. But I think as a business owner, I know that name, image, and likeness with no guardrails is going to, even though it's for the student athletes are going to get used and abused by it. And as a business owner, if this is how it's going to be, I would love to the opportunity to actually sit down and I would give that to LeMoyne. I would give that to anybody, colleges and universities. I'd be more than happy to say, hey, you know what? Let me come in and let's do a seminar once a semester where I could talk to them about what they should know.
Yeah.
Because in 10 years of owning my own company, there's things I know today that I had no idea of 9 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So I think there's a lot of good if it's done right. And unfortunately, in the world of the transfer portal and NIL, it's being used as a recruiting tool, and it's being used in an adverse way to education, and that's where I don't want it to go any farther down the road.
Yeah, and what we do, Dan, our process here at LeMoyne is once a student athlete decides that they want to enter the transfer portal, they have to meet with our compliance director. That's part of the process. And then the compliance director will notify me. And I try and meet with every student athlete that enters the transfer portal. Not so much the graduate transfers, because you can understand they might want to have an additional experience after they've graduated. But retention is so important to the mission of our institution. It's so important to us. We want to maintain those relationships with the students that we bring in here for 4 or 5 years. So I'll meet with each student athlete and talk to them and find out the reason why they want to transfer. And if there's something that we as an administration can do better to help the experience for the next person. Or I don't try to change their mind. I try and talk to them. I try and tell them, share some life experiences with them, tell them the grass doesn't always look greener sometimes, find out if they're happy here, and if the only reason they want to leave is based on playing time, that might not be the best reason to leave. So it's about institutional fit for student athletes, and I try and talk to them about that, and see if it's an area that we came up short as an administration, what can we do better for the people behind them. And in many cases, the student athletes will come back and they'll pull their names out of the transfer portal and they'll stay on the team. We've had several that have expressed a desire to transfer after this academic year, and some that already have. But fortunately, that number is reduced, and I feel like the more touch points we can have in discussions and conversations with our student athletes, that maybe we have an opportunity to tell them that and change their mind a little bit and tell them our story and know that we're here for them and we care for them, and that maybe that gives them pause to think about what their next step might be.
Yeah, and the opportunity to, well, you have to care enough. You have to care enough on your side of it, because an AD could say, okay, well, you're leaving, good riddance. But for you to actually sit down and say, okay, you know what? Is this an exit interview, or is this a conversation where there's, the opportunity for you to stay? And if it is an exit interview, then I want to know how we could be better. I want you to know, on your side, what we've seen from you, and I want to be amicable. And, I've seen that when I know that something is on it, so I say, what would Jesus do? And and I'm candid. I always talk on my show about exactly who I am. When I went through my divorce, my last moment with her, I helped her move into her apartment. I had dinner with her, and I sat across from her, and all I could say to myself was, my last moment with her has to be with humanity, it has to be with grace, it has to be with kindness, and no matter what I'm upset about, and no matter what I think I have a right to stake a claim to or be mad about, I needed to say, for me, no matter what this person has done to me, what is my final act going to be with them? And it was to be kind, compassionate, caring, to bite my tongue, and to understand that I'm trying to get somewhere else at the end of my life, and so getting revenge is to me not as important. And I feel that when we go through these exit interviews in life, professionally and personally, it's important to learn something about ourselves and how we can be better, which I did, and at the same time to find grace, because it's not always easy to have a conversation where that a student athlete may be leaving or a coach may be leaving, whatever it may be, and you have to have those conversations. And you as an athletic director, you have to have the conversations of hirings and firings, of leaving and staying, and they're not easy conversations to have, and you have to have a great amount of patience, grace, faith, belief, confidence, and compassion, because you may have a hard conversation, but you still want to leave it amicably, and I think that that's an art.
Yeah, it is, and it's not always the best part of the job, having difficult conversations, and we had several this year. We look back to all the way from last May when I arrived on campus to now in June, a year later. We had a lot of difficult conversations. We had a lot of celebrations and good times, but it's part of the job, and again, if it means that we can really help our student athletes along their journey, whether that's here at LeMoyne, which we hope it will be, and we hope they reconsider and stay. But again, if it's something that we can kind of help provide a little bit of guidance, we're happy to do that as well.
And as a final note, as we step into June here on June 1st, officially in AD&DT on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, exclusively with LeMoyne College, the reclassification and realignment, we got to break the news here on the show. We got to give an update, and now I am told we have another update to give.
And we do. More breaking news, right? So it's not big news to break yet, but we did receive our report from our consultant, from Collegiate Consulting, and started to take a look at that over Memorial Day weekend. Been through that report a couple times already. So we'll have started to socialize it now with our leadership. We have a Board of Trustees meeting here on campus this week. We'll get through that. We'll be able to distribute the report, and we'll begin to have those internal discussions once everyone feels like they have had a good opportunity to read the report page front to back. It's 173 pages, so it'll take a little bit of time to get through front and back, but no surprises really, I can tell you that. What we had estimated is pretty accurate to what we're seeing from Collegiate Consulting, and it's going to be a discernment period now for our leadership to see if it's something that we can do financially. We know there's an increased financial investment that will be required on an annual basis and an upfront cost. And now we have a really good idea, a good picture of what it'll take to be competitive in terms of budget spend with our peers in 3 of the regional conferences that we've talked about, America East, the MAC, and the Northeast Conference. We'll be able to really absorb all that information, socialize it, discuss it, have some really good discussion, and then we'll make a data-driven decision that's in the best interest of this institution moving forward about which direction we go athletically. And hopefully, if we decide that reclassification is in the best interest of the institution, hopefully there's a conference out there that views LeMoyne as a great candidate. And we feel like we're on a parallel path to when we come to our decision, that there may be, if there's going to be an opportunity, there may be one at that same point in time, and we'll have the Regency to make that decision.
And I mean, you mentioned the MAC, the MAAC, and you mentioned the America East and the Northeast Conference, the NEC. Why those 3?
I think if you look at geography more than anything else, Dan, they make the most sense. Institutional fit for us, the MAC would be a tremendous institutional fit. The Northeast Conference, an excellent institutional fit. Like institutions, similar missions, private Catholic schools in the MAC, several here in central western New York, Siena and Albany, Marist in the Hudson Valley, and of course we have Niagara and Canisius in the western corridor of the state. There's also a possibility, with the MAC, if LeMoyne were to make this move, my stance, and I know President Lemira's stance is we share the same thought. This really isn't an athletics move. If we make it, it would be a move for the institution, right? A strategic move for the institution. We want to focus our engagement levels, our marketing efforts, our enrollment strategy. We wouldn't shift it from our backyard in central and upstate New York, but we would just expand that footprint.
Yeah.
And I think that's very appealing for us. That footprint of the tri-state area where there's tremendous amounts of population, and we know there's an enrollment cliff coming in 2025 in the Northeast. Well, how do we expand that footprint? Potentially, you expose your college through athletics now in a different market, in that tri-state area where you have schools in Orange County and Rockland County and Dutchess County and northern New Jersey and of course New York City, and all the engagement opportunities with our wonderful alumni that are now inhabiting those areas of the region. So exciting times for us. I'd say if you ask why, that's why. The geography piece, the institutional fit, the similarities in academic mission, size, budget, those were the three. Those were the reasons why we selected those three to benchmark against anyway.
Can a conference reach out to you during this process, or do they have to wait?
No conference can reach out to us at any point in time. We just wanted to be in position that if a conference was interested, that we had a decision in place. That was my goal as the athletic director all the way back from last summer was, hey, let's position LeMoyne in such a way that we would have that regency, we would have that decision. So first, it was trying to make us the best we could be internally as an athletic department, trying to position ourselves so we would be an attractive candidate.
Yeah.
And then it was, okay, let's make sure that we socialize this information amongst our leadership. And it's a conversation with all of our stakeholders and all of our constituents. And so this is a decision that's going to be made in the event center down here in the athletic department by the athletic director or by the president in the back room. This is going to be a decision that's socialized amongst all of our community. And that's a tribute to Linda Lemura, Dr. Lemura, our president, and making sure that everyone's going to have a voice in this decision. Mm-hmm. And then hopefully we come to a decision, we know what direction we'd like to head, and then if an opportunity comes, we don't have to say, well, hold off, we need to start the process and internalize this and socialize this. Yeah. We're gonna have this inflection point where the two products will intersect. And hopefully there's an invitation, and at the time we have a decision whether we decide to reclassify or we don't. But those two things intersect, I should say. And opportunity might only come around once, and we want to make sure we're prepared. I always say, if it's wonderful if you're successful, but you always have to prepare for success, so that when that opportunity comes, you're able to capitalize on it. And I think that we've taken great measures to prepare for this success.
Yeah, you are ready if and when. And what do they say? If you're always ready, you don't have to get ready. So there's a lot to be said about the potential future and what's coming up here, and you can be sure that whatever happens with LeMoyne College, it'll be right here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of this fantastic AD and DT, the Dolphin Dive, and all of the specials that we get to do throughout the year. We are so proud and so thankful that LeMoyne has trusted us to tell their story. Thank you to Dr. Linda Lemura, to Bob Beretta, to all of the coaches, all the student athletes, and to everybody around campus, to our future Dolphins and our alumni. We appreciate the fact that you've allowed me the opportunity to tell the stories and allowed us to put a spotlight on LeMoyne that has been unique, different, and worldwide, as we've been able to spread the message about how fast, how strong, and how well Dolphins can swim. And remember, folks, the dolphins are closest to the human beings as well. There's a reason why if we're ever trapped in an ocean, you want to find a dolphin. So we thank you for listening. We thank you for being here. And, of course, we appreciate you as always. Thank you, Bob, and fins up.
Fins up, Dan. Thank you.
Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicoli's.com. That's myaviccollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. As a patient, what do we want? To be cared for, to be listened to, and to have someone walk us through the process on our path to victory. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics does all of those things beautifully, with Dr. Mark Petropoli leading the team on 791 West Genesee Street in Skaneateles, New York, located minutes from beautiful Skaneateles Lake. Whatever your injury may be from head to toe, preventative care, rehab, physical therapy, laser therapy, and surgery are all available at Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, where they care about us, they listen to us, and they understand that everyone's path to victory is a little bit different. Let them help you on yours by calling 315-685-7544 to make your appointment today. That's 315-685-7544. And find out more information at victorysportsmedicine.com. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Always happy to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, where sports meets that thing called life. You just heard from Bob Beretta in the Reclassification exclusive update. We were the first here in the country, in the world, to bring you LeMoyne's thoughts on reclassification and the potential of going D1. And we were the first to give you an update, and this is your second update and exclusive to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora as well, that we were able to be here with you today and let you know where things are. They do have the report, as you heard Bob say. I believe it's 173 pages, so a lot to go through there, a lot to look at, and now it's just about making the decision, right? If they want to be ready for this. And like I said to Bob, you know, if you're ready, you don't have to get ready. So conference can call at any time, and if they're going to do this, then, you know, you obviously want to be ready for that phone call. So you can be sure that I will be ready for the phone call if and when something comes up, and I'll be sure to share it with you all first. So we will definitely keep our eyes and ears on this, as we have since the moment that it came to fruition that there was a look at reclassification and realignment with LeMoyne College. So you can be sure anything else that comes out from LeMoyne will be here on Wake Up Call first and foremost. with that being said, I'm very happy to have rejoining us here on the broadcast Mr. Dave Pasiak. Dave is a longtime basketball head coach, longtime analyst, longtime supporter and lover of the game. He's with your NVU Linden Hornets out in Vermont and doing a tremendous job out there. He's made history in his career out there and obviously has a lot of love for the kids that he has coached all over the country and has had a lot of special moments to celebrate that. And very proud of Dave and everything that he's been able to do, the team that he's had this season. And really, when you support your friends, it's different, because when you support your friends, you want to see all these coaches win. But when you know them and you know what they're about, it's a different type of wanting them to win. So with that being said, to talk on the NBA Finals now with the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors, we have my good friend Dave Pasiak, who I am more than proud to welcome here back onto the show. And more than happy to say is here with the young minds and the young hearts of the world. So, Dave, before anything, thank you for what you do.
Well, appreciate the kind words, Dan. It's always great to get on with you and talk basketball or talk sports in general or life in general. So I always enjoy the opportunity.
Well, thank you for that, and I enjoy it right back, Dave. And so let's hop right into things here. We got the Boston Celtics. We have the Golden State Warriors. Warriors had less of a trouble. I never heard of this, but the gentleman's sweep, right? When you don't go 4-0, but maybe you go 4-1. So, Luka Doncic was able to get something out of this. But let's go back to that series. The conversation of nowadays, what does this superstar need in order to win a championship? Looking at the Dallas Mavericks and looking at how Golden State handled them relatively easily, which should not happen in a conference final. I think that should be your toughest series next to the NBA Finals, but to the Golden State Warriors, it was a pretty easy thing here as they're playing their best basketball late, scaring the people that aren't fans of the Warriors and making Warriors fans very excited. What, in your opinion, does Luka Doncic need when you look at the roster of Dallas? What does he need to vie or at least make things interesting against a team like the Golden State Warriors?
Yeah, well, Luka was really good in the series. And like you said, it was still the gentleman's sweep and everything. But he really, and there's an interesting kind of school of thought out there that it might be difficult for Dallas to do this, is he really needs like a second star to shoulder some of the burden, because his usage is the highest in the NBA, and he's so ball dominant. So, I think for them to kind of take the next step from contender to, from solid playoff team to really like legitimate threat to win an NBA title, I think one of a couple of things needs to happen, maybe both. And one would be adding a second star that could shoulder some of the burden, and the other thing would be for them to put parts around and Luka to trust the parts. If you think back to when Dallas won the championship with Nowitzki, everything ran through Dirk, and they surrounded him with the right complementary pieces, and he developed the trust in those guys to kind of facilitate for them when it was called for. I think Luka's got to develop a little bit more trust in the guys around him, and Dallas needs to put pieces around him to complement him, and ideally add a second star level player that can shoulder some of the burden and not allow teams to load up on Luka to the degree that they do.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And you talk about can they afford it? Is there a guy out there? Is there a player out there? If you had a short list right now and you're Mark Cuban, what would that list maybe include? Who would that list maybe include, in your opinion, that you would make a play for if you're Dallas?
Just off the top of my head, without putting a lot of thought into it, I think if they had a guy like Bradley Beal or Lillard or something like that, who's, you hear those names dangled out there from time to time. Perhaps a right-thinking Ben Simmons if the Nets decide to get off of him. Simmons would help them not so much from the scoring standpoint, but from the facilitating and elite defender standpoint. So I mean, those would be just some of the guys that you hear are out there. Now, the thing, and I read an interesting commentary on this within the last few days, that because Luka is so ball dominant, and it would be a tough sell for some star level guys in the NBA to go play alongside him for kind of some of the same reasons that you hear about LeBron James every once in a while, that he's so ball dominant through, the peak of his career. And, you look at like when LeBron went to Miami, what Bosh in particular, way to an extent, and Bosh, what those guys kind of sacrificed to their own game. When he went to Cleveland, how much Kevin Love sacrificed of his game to fit with LeBron. And, and they had Irving, who really was only willing to do that to an extent, then wanted out of Cleveland and wanted to be the guy. So, it's easier said than done. You have to have the right guys with the right mindset that are just locked in on sacrificing, in pursuit of a championship. So, would a guy like Beal or Lillard or something at this point in their career be willing to do that? That's, I guess, an open question. So.
Yeah, and I have a lot of questions, aside of the NBA Finals. One of the ones, and we'll talk about these over the weeks, Dave, if you'll oblige me, but the question for the Brooklyn Nets, right? Kyrie Irving has a player option. He can stay for a year, and he's going to make, I believe, $36.5 million, which is ridiculous money. What are your thoughts if you're the Nets general manager right now? Now, Kevin Durant has played with James Harden twice, and it didn't work either time. Played with him in Oklahoma City early in Harden's career, and then as Harden actually got better, because there he was the third wheel, right, to Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, who both wanted to shoot. James Harden now being with the Philadelphia 76ers, so it didn't work in Oklahoma City, it didn't work in Brooklyn with Kevin Durant and James Harden. The Kyrie Irving thing, Kyrie Irving is dramatic, Kyrie Irving is a lot of things, Kyrie Irving is a lightning rod for the wrong reasons, and Kyrie Irving, he's talented, but if he picks up his player option, then, the Nets obviously have to take him for another year. But if you're the Nets, do you work out a long-term deal with him, or what do you do? I mean, and is he the problem? Is Kevin Durant the problem? Are they both the problem? I mean, Kevin Durant obviously is an incredible player, but we've seen them try to assemble their own Golden State Warrior dynasty, and it's never worked in Brooklyn, and it doesn't matter if they're the favorite. They have not shown up, and to me, I know what I would do if I was the Brooklyn Nets general manager, but I don't want to load the question. So how do you look at this? What do you do? Is Durant the problem? Should Kyrie Irving have an extended deal? How do you look at it?
I go back to one. Before we get to that, I want to go back to one comment.
Yeah.
Durant and Westbrook and Harden did work in Oklahoma City. That team got to the NBA Finals, and at the time looked like a team that was going to contend for the next 8 or 10 years. What damaged that team was a really poor front office decision to move to keep Serge Ibaka instead of Harden. They basically were in a position where they go and keep one of the two guys, and they chose to keep Ibaka over Harden, which has turned out to be one of the worst moves in recent NBA history. So it actually did work for those guys in Oklahoma City. How long that would have sustained itself is another question. But getting back to the Nets, I think.
Can I go to your point for a second here? What I meant before, I didn't mean to interrupt, but when you say I worked there because they made the NBA Finals, from my point of view, what I'm saying is I don't think it was sustainable. I don't think having the three of them there was sustainable because Russell wants to shoot all the time, Kevin wants to shoot all the time, and James Harden wasn't given the opportunities. I feel like he was given the third option to shoot. So I'm not saying that they couldn't have found a way to work together. I'm not saying that on paper, I'm not saying that they didn't work on the court. I'm saying that I don't think that it would have been sustainable because I think they would have bit off each other at certain points. and it would have imploded. So I'm not saying that the talent of the three of them together couldn't win a championship. I just think with the personalities that you had and how James Harden was treated on that team, I don't know if James Harden would have wanted to stay there, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, really interesting question, because you kind of see how those guys have evolved personality-wise, and it can certainly lead to your conclusion. But on the other hand, at the time, that team was pretty cohesive, and could it have remained cohesive in pursuit of a championship? I mean, that's something that we'll never know. Honestly, I think it's one of the really unfortunate things in the NBA, because I thought that was a team that had positioned itself to be a top tier contender, for the foreseeable future. And, one singular front office decision kind of blew that whole thing to pieces. But anyways, on to the Nets. I think that, it's a tough call with Irving, and you wonder, the drama with Irving this year over not being able to play in the home games, and then they moved on from Harden mid-season. Is that the kind of thing that, let's say Irving is there all year and he's not dealing with the vax issue for the home games. How much does that change the trajectory of that team this year? Would we be talking about the Boston Celtics, going the NBA Finals, had the Nets been intact wire to wire? I don't know. I mean, open question there. With Irving, you're getting a very talented guy, but you got to know what you're signing on for too. That drama seems to follow him.
Yeah.
He wasn't satisfied with being number 2 in Cleveland when they were winning NBA championships, and wanted to be the top dog somewhere. And now he's in Brooklyn and he's not the top dog again. So, how will that tune play out? When you put together star guys, and really, people like LeBron gets a bad rap for that with Miami. That really started with the Paul Pierce, KG, Ray Allen triumvirate in Boston is really where you saw that whole trend start. But I think when you had Pierce and KG and Allen, I think, it was about, they had accomplished a lot individually, and it was about pursuit of a championship first and foremost. And I think the same thing held true, in Miami with LeBron and Wade and Bosh and, some of the supporting cast they had around them. And they also, that team in Miami also had really solid front office leadership. I mean, Spoelstra had Riley's backing, and so the front office was not going to be, Riley was still going to drive that ship, as much as LeBron and Wade had influence and whatnot. In Brooklyn, it was more of a question, I think. Durant and Irving and Harden, were they motivated first and foremost solely by pursuit of a championship, or do they have their own agendas? The way it's played out, Harden certainly seemed to have his own agenda, and Kyrie has had his own agenda through most of his career. So when you're going to try to assemble a team like that, the whole cohesion piece and I think you have to have, and remember, I think we had a conversation about this. They hired Steve Nash to take over as a head coach. All-time great player, tons of credibility in the league, but had never been a head coach in the league prior to that. Yeah. So, so I think there's a question there. Is he the guy to steer that ship? Because you got a guy who's growing into being a head coach, but you've got a team built to try to win a championship right now today. So, so I think there's a lot of questions there in Brooklyn. It's easy to say, let's move on from Kyrie, but if you're going to do that, how are you going to, you're going to, I mean, you would think he's going to pick up the player option, right?
Yeah.
So you'd think he's going to pick that up. So, I mean, I don't know, like, if there's a market to move on from him, maybe you could get somebody to take on his salary for a year that's looking to free up money, but what are you going to get in return? Probably pennies on the dollar. So I think their best move in the short run, Kyrie picks up the option, is do the best they can to put pieces around him and KD next year, and see where they can take it. I don't know that they have a lot of like splash moves that they can make.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, it's not a team option, it's a player option, so it puts you in a bad position, right? Because Kyrie, that's his money. And if he wants that money, he can go take that money. And you made that deal, you made that contract. And is there a market for somebody to take him? I don't know. I mean, I don't think Kyrie is easily shoppable as maybe he could have been in the past. Obviously there's that whatever relationship with LeBron James, and sometimes they try to work together and then they don't. But I mean, outside of that weird reunion, I don't see it happening. So I think, in all honesty, it's his player option. If I were him, I would take it because I think his market's gone down. I think his drama has gone up, or maybe stayed the same because he seemingly has been dramatic for a long time. But I think, if I'm the Nets, there's no way in heck I'm signing a long-term deal with him. I'm not signing a max deal with him. If he wants to hold out and he wants to this, that, and whatever, that's all well and good. I'm not going to sign a deal with him long-term. I think honestly, they're in a situation where they have to deal with the $36.5 million because they put it in the contract. But there's no way, if I'm the Nets, that I want to dedicate myself to Kyrie Irving after this season until I know. And yeah, maybe that puts me in a bad place because maybe he plays really well and maybe the team goes really far. And now, I got to look at paying him top dollar. But at the same time, it's like, listen, maybe that lights a fire under Kyrie. Maybe that makes him play better. So yeah, if I'm the Nets, I might have to spend more money. But I don't think the Nets need to make the investment now. And if for some reason Kyrie plays really well and then they got to make the investment later, so be it. But I'd rather light a fire under Kyrie than light a fire under myself for no reason. And that's how I look at the Nets right now.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. The one thing you got to take in consideration for the Nets, though, is you only got a finite window with KD. At his peak or close to his peak, right. And you don't want to waste those years. So I think that from a Nets front office perspective, I think the number one decision they have to make is how can they maximize their opportunity, over the KD years. Now, if you move on from Kyrie, are you going to be able to bring in one or two others? High-level, star-level players that will fit nicely around KD and keep you at a championship contender level. So I think that's really what it comes down to with the Nets. Do you have a better chance to compete for a championship by committing more years to Kyrie, or do you have a better chance to contend by moving on from Kyrie and using the resources that you freed up to try to put other pieces around KD?
Yeah, I think the best team for KD right now is a Kyrie-less Brooklyn Nets team. I think they need to find a way to build around him. They need to find a way to make that work. The system is not working, and I mean it really is. To quote a band out there, it is the system of a down. I mean that you don't have James Harden anymore. That didn't work. I would rather have James Harden than Kyrie Irving, and so I think in the place that Brooklyn is right now, I mean, Brooklyn, you're handcuffed by what you did with the player option, but you're also handcuffed with KD. You don't want to get rid of him, right? He's a superstar, but you need to do something with him, and it's not working currently. So there needs to be something that's going to happen here and something that's going to happen soon where they can really start making these moves and, find people that are going to be serviceable, that are looking to shake things up and looking to go somewhere. And, the money that you want to pay somebody to bring him in, that's the money that you're paying Kyrie. So in a perfect storm, they would be able to get rid of Kyrie and bring somebody in. What's probably going to happen is Kyrie's going to handcuff him, and they're still going to have to try and find a way to free up some money and bring somebody in. Let's jump to the NBA Finals here. I'm obviously going to have you back, and we're going to have plenty to talk about here, Dave. But I want to take a look at both of these teams here, the Boston Celtics of the East, the Golden State Warriors of the West. Who do you think is the kind of wild card of both teams here, the one that you're really looking to saying, like, this person has to be on at all times? I mean, we know Steph Curry, we know Jason Tatum, like, we know, the guys that are going to be out there that everybody's going to be looking to. We know the Klay Thompsons, you can argue, obviously, Jaylen Brown on the other side for the Celtics, but who are those catalysts on each team that maybe don't perform every night that you think, hey, these guys if they want to win a championship, and they need a few points here, a few rebounds here, a last possession here, that, when you need that moment from one of those, I don't want to call them a dark horse because there's superstars on both sides, or stars on both sides, we don't want to call them superstars, but who are those people outside of the people that most people are going to say that you think maybe a couple guys on one side, a couple guys on the other really have to play their best series in order to get the victory?
Well, I think on the Boston side, one guy that's kind of intriguing is Robert Williams.
Yeah.
If he's like close to 100% and effective, he's a guy who's played well against the Warriors in the past. And, Boston's got such an advantage with, in terms of size and length to begin with. And if Williams is playing effectively, I think he changes the calculus a little bit for the Celtics and creates a bit of a problem for the Warriors to deal with. Other side of the coin, I think Wiggins, and specifically Wiggins guarding Jason Tatum. Like, I think if they can afford to play Wiggins on Tatum, because he's got a little more athleticism than Draymond and everything, and let Draymond match up on somebody else. I think that really gives the Warriors an advantage defensively versus forcing them to put Draymond on Tatum and maybe exposing them in some other areas. So, I think in terms of like guys a little bit below the radar to look at, those would be my two. Would be Williams for the Celtics and Wiggins for Golden State.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I definitely agree with you. Wiggins for Golden State for sure. I think what he could do in the front court and how he needs to really, we saw him in the last game against Dallas, a double-double, 18 points, 10 rebounds, 7 of those defensively, and had a couple assists and a steal in the game as well. I think Wiggins is definitely a big part of this. We talk about how does Golden State end up getting these players? Well, they didn't have a great year, right? And then in the lottery, they ended up getting a high pick. It works out for them. The rich get richer. And so I think I agree with you. I know that I agree with you on Golden State, that the one I circled was Wiggins for the Golden State Warriors to be somebody. I would also look at, because I know he has off nights here and there, I look at Klay Thompson. I know he's a sharpshooter, right? And I know a lot of people would say Klay Thompson, but Klay is a guy that he's got to play very consistently all the way through. My guy is Andrew Wiggins, but I just want to make a note of Klay Thompson. On the other side of it, I understand your pick there. I would say Al Horford. Al Horford, man, that guy's name just sticks around forever. And the longevity of being a professional athlete, right, it's fleeting. And Al Horford has been a little bit of a journeyman, And, some people allow a bit of a journeyman. And here he is where you might think, hey, the Celtics got a washed-up Al Horford, and he has been a huge part of where they are right now, a big part of how they beat Miami. And so I would say Al Horford's got to play his mind out as well, and I would put him there as my catalyst, my necessary component beyond Jaylen Brown and beyond Jason Tatum to take Boston to the promised land, because Al Horford, to me, has resurrected his career in such a way as that man's going to make his money, and he could definitely help this team win a championship. So I'm going to circle Horford for the Boston Celtics, but I think it's going to be a great series. I'm excited about it. Good friend Jerry Hart's a Celtics fan. My Aunt Donna's a Celtics fan. My grandpa, Papa Cavino up in heaven, is a Celtics fan. And, on the other side of it for the Golden State Warriors, I know a couple people. My nephew Carter is a big Golden State fan. So I got fans on both ends of the spectrum of this thing. So we'll see what happens in this respect. But first game is coming up here this week, and then we'll have another game on the weekend. And then, Dave, I'd love to start off the week with you this coming week to see how things looked from Golden State. Love to have you back.
Yeah, that would be great. I think the series is really, it's fascinating and it's tough to pick because I think it's going to be a good series to digest game to game just because of the contrast and the difficulties that each team provides the other one. So I think adjustments from game to game will really be critical. And, I'm hopeful that the playoffs have been, honestly, we haven't had as many of the really scintillating, great finish games in the playoffs and great series in the playoffs as we hope for going in, but it has been a little unpredictable. And, you hope that we get a great finals that goes 6 or 7 games and, it has some memorable games and moments. I think it'll be, like I said, it's tough to pick, but, I think the one key I would tell people to kind of keep an eye out for is here's an amazing stat for you. Golden State, through the playoffs so far, they're -7 through 3 quarters, and they're +94 in the fourth quarter. So I think it's the kind of thing where, if the game is in the balance in the fourth quarter, you think with their experience and everything, probably tips towards Golden State just a bit. I think Boston needs to put the hammer down early in games and play with the lead, play from on top.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Boston's got to learn how to close out. And if Golden State wants to win this series, they got to be more effective earlier and make sure that they don't put themselves in a situation. Yes, they've been able to get out of it, but, can that last forever? So Golden State has to be better early. Boston has to know how to close late. And that's really what it looks like from here. So hopefully we get 6 or 7 out of this thing. I know that we'll have Dave back on here to talk about it. DT and DP is what I call it. So Mr. Pasiak, I appreciate you as always. And I hope you had a terrific Memorial Day long weekend. And obviously I look forward to talking with you very soon. And I know that you'll have a front row seat in front of your TV to watch this thing. I'll be doing the same, and I look forward to talk to you about it.
Sounds great. We'll talk again soon, Dan.
All right, sounds good. Take care. That coming from Dave Pasiak here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. We'll take our final step aside here of the broadcast as we get ready for our video that will be a separate video. Every Wednesday, as you know, the show is to cut up into 2 videos so that we can bring you our fantasy football content. Because our fantasy football library is so fast, that's why we separate the videos here on Wednesday. So make sure that you tune in throughout the end of this video and be ready for the new one that's coming right after this fast break inside the Cafe Kubal studios, where sports meets life. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, They are always here for you.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand butter chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
This is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York, open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. I want to give a proud thanks to the LeMoyne Dolphins, of course, our multimedia marketing partnership with the LeMoyne Dolphins, bringing you Dolphin Time every single Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. AD and DT today featuring Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora, speaking on the success of spring sports at LeMoyne. Multiple sports, and a big shout out to all the coaches and student athletes and staff. And of course, we spoke about NIL, transfer portal, and the changes to collegiate athletics, as well as reclassification, and gave you the exclusive three-peat here, as we exclusively broke the story for you that LeMoyne was looking at reclassification and potentially moving from D2 to D1. Then we gave you an update on that, and now that they have the report, we gave you yet another update. So thank you to Bob Beretta and LeMoyne for entrusting us with that, and a big shout out to Dave Pasiak. Always great to talk with him about life, sports, and all the good stuff, including the NBA Finals and the NBA as a whole. So big thanks to Dave. Make sure you're tuning in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. MixLR.com, Facebook.com, and YouTube.com, all /WakeUpCallDT. Of course, WakeUpCallDT.com, and on Facebook.com /LiveNowDT. Once the shows go live, you can catch us in the archives. There's a bunch of shows that have been added to the archives here as of yesterday. Go to Stitcher, TuneIn, Podbean, iHeartRadio, Spotify, MixLR, YouTube, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, and more. All you have to, and you can use your Google devices and your Alexa devices. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on any one of these outlets, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Proud thanks to all of our Central and Upstate New York partners, Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, Wildcat Sports Pub, PB&J's Lunchbox, Canine Camp, Dog Daycare, Avicoli's, Mon Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Honda City of Liverpool, Millhouse Market, Pizza Man, Victory Sports Medicine, Orthopedics, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Chick-fil-A Clay, and Mother's Cupboard. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is also the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your LeMoyne College Dolphins. It's Fins Up every single Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. First and third Wednesday, AD and DT. Second and fourth Wednesday, the Dolphin Dive, with stories from coaches as well as student athletes, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. Find it all at the LeMoyne tab of WakeUpCallDT.com. You can also go to YouTube.com /WakeUpCallDT and download our shows from there and watch our shows from there with all the specials with LeMoyne. And make sure you subscribe. For more information, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is also the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Marywood University Pacers. It is Pacer Pride every single month, and you can find your Pacers on Fridays at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time as they join us with administration, student athletes, and coaches' stories on what it means to be a Pacer and what Pacers can do. A big shout out and congratulations on historic seasons for Pacers softball, Pacers baseball, and Marywood's inaugural season with esports, as all three of their teams made nationals. So a big shout out to the Marywood Pacers and all the work that they've been doing. Get our shows with the Pacers by going to the Marywood tab on WakeUpCallDT.com and bookmarking it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, YouTube.com /WakeUpCallDT. And of course, find out more information by going to MarywoodPacers.com. the Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse, exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Our Bobcat Buzz is what we call our coverage of the Bryan and Stratton Bobcats of Syracuse. You will see so much from the Bobcats, including stories with national champions, stories on-site on location at places like Mother's Cupboard, Cafe Kubal, as well as PB&J's Lunchbox. We have had a great time with Clay Gagan Sherman, as well as Nick Dimitrievsky, Alex Grigorita, Tay Baker, and Sean Peak. There's plenty more coming up with the Bobcats, and you can see all of our Bobcat coverage by going to the BSC SYR tab on wakeupcalldt.com. You can also go to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and subscribe there. And for more information on your Bobcats in general, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. With that being said, we're starting off our fantasy football video, so make sure you go to facebook.com/wakeupcalldt and facebook.com/livenowdt. With that being said, find us on Facebook at wakeupcalldt, Twitter at CallDT, and Instagram at wakeupcall_DT. From the Cafe Kubal Studios, we say God bless, no stress,